Okay, well, without further ado, thank you, Dale, for your patience. It is my pleasure to introduce Dale Darling. Dale is the Chief Marketing Officer of Motos America, a premium European motorcycle dealership company. Motos America purchases and operates power sports dealerships with an emphasis on BMW, Triumph, and Ducati motorcycles. So he might be doing a giveaway today. There may be someone driving off on a brand new Triumph. Maybe, right? No. I know. I don't know. We'll have to see. Prior to this, Dale worked for 30 years in broadcast and digital publishing sales, including 20 years with KSL5 Television and 10 years with Deseret Digital Media, where he helped launch KSL.com Classifieds. So if you bought a car off of KSL, chances are that's thanks to Dale, partly. He is a board member of the Utah section of the PGA and has been on the board of directors of Amicus Health Services for 5 years. Dale holds an associate's degree from Snow College, so he was sitting in these seats 40 years ago where you are. Not exactly, because the library wasn't even around then, but he knows where you're at right now. He holds a bachelor's degree from marketing in the University of Utah and graduated from the Kellogg School of Broadcast Management at Northwestern University. Dale is currently a volunteer member of the Snow College Foundation Board, where he is dedicated to the philanthropic support of Snow College and our students. And I know that Dale really cares about our students. Dale and his wife, Renee, have been married for 26 years and have 5 children and 7 grandchildren. Dale's other interests include golfing, skiing, running, investing, and church involvement. He splits his time between Bountiful and Spring City, Utah. So please join me in welcoming Dale Darling.
I was for sure not in a room this nice. Or this big. Typically the class size was maybe 20, 25 people. This is like my whole graduating class. So what I'm gonna do is go pretty quick. I'm gonna try to stick to like an entrepreneurial theme. I've got some exercise in here that I wanna spend time with. I got some giveaways, some swag, nothing like a new bike, but I got some hats and t-shirts that you guys can go in and we'll do it on social media to get a solution there. So I'm gonna take you down that path, do a little bit of introduction here. It's gonna go that fast. I'll slow down if you guys wanna ask questions. I don't know how interactive this gets, but if you wanna stop me, do the wave and I'll go from there, but this is more of the agenda we'll follow. I grew up in Lehi, Utah, most of my life. That was way before it became the piece of the Wasatch Front that it is now. Again, it was my Lehi High Pioneer class. There was 110 of us in my senior class. That'll show you the difference. We were a two-way school. The world's changed there. I lived in Seoul, Korea for several years of my life. My father was a civilian engineer who worked for the Army, helped change my life long before it was cool to be from Korea, the boy bands and all that stuff. It was just a third world country. But I learned so much there through my education and the chance to engage with people. Came here in '77 to play football. Found out the very first week I was slower than I thought I was, and luckily I got hurt, blew up a shoulder, and my career was able to end there, and embarrassment ended. That would have been me 45 years ago walking to some class here. A segue in my life, leaving Snow College, I was actually handed a book some of you probably used or been a part of, a Book of Mormon. I wasn't part of that, read the book, took me on about a 4-year quest. I spent 2 years in Scotland and Northern Ireland sharing that book and changed my life, changed how I see the world, what I believe, how I look at things, how I measure things. Still involved in that today. Consider myself someone of faith when I make my decisions and when I make any sort of advancement in my career, my family. I use that faith, and it actually started here, ironically, at Snow College. Graduated years later at the U of U, as has been mentioned. That's my age. I got 5 children. In the last 4 weeks, we were given twins to our family. In fact, today when I leave here, I'll go home, and the girl of the boy-girl combo is out of the NICU, comes home today, like women. She's on time, and she's going to be the first one home. The little boys are going to be 3 or 4 more weeks at the primaries after some surgery. So pretty eventful time in our lives right now. Okay, the first stuff, I've got like some hats and t-shirts and things. So here's what I need you to do to win it. You're going to go to LinkedIn. If you're LinkedIn members, the only way you're going to play this. Motos America Inc. is our page. Make a comment. I'll select the best comment. I'll tell Russ. I'll leave the goods here. You guys can hand it out from there. So we'll do 2 or 3 of these over the course of this lecture to keep you guys engaged. Motos America Inc., LinkedIn. And I'll leave you my phone number at the end if you want to text me if you're not on LinkedIn. You can hit me up that way with an email. Let's get into some numbers here. Let's start breaking down some graphs. Who's here, accounting major? Who's into finance? Okay, I feel really bad for you because that's a hard life. We're not even going to talk about numbers. Finance and accounting make the world go round, and if you're there, you're probably going to make a fortune, especially if you're entrepreneur-minded. That's been a struggle that I didn't take advantage of, the number side of things. I kind of avoided it and I went down a marketing finance side, but I was always going to go into sales. I come from poor white trash, and I knew my only way out was to make money as fast as I could, and I always wanted to be in sales, so I spent a lot of time avoiding spending too much time getting caught up in the numbers. I'm going to give you 2 events in my life that were entrepreneurial that changed it. One's inside an existing legacy business, and the other one's what I'm doing now that's totally entrepreneurial outside of any sort of support. We're constantly raising money and finding issues in and around what we're doing now, the entrepreneurial side of that. KSL TV, I started actually out of the University of Utah as a real estate developer. You probably won't know this, 1987, there was something called Black Friday, kicked the economy's butt, threw everything upside down. I spent 2 years getting beat up in a really bad recession, forced to leave that business, got involved with broadcast. I started, does anybody know what Channel 14 is? When I first went to work at Channel 14, it was called KXIV. It was so bad, the only way you could get it is if you had a hoop antenna that you screwed in the back of your TV. It came over the air free. None of you have lived through that hell. It was an event. We would go sell it, and I'd literally go into advertisers and say, here's who we are. We got Gilligan's Island and Hawaii Five-0 and F-Troop, all these old TV shows, black and white. And the only way you can get it is with this antenna, and they would take away my water or whatever they'd given me and usher us out the room because it was so stupid. They couldn't even imagine. The Millers bought it several years later, turned it into Channel 14 KJazz, ran some product there. It still sucks. It's on cable and satellite somewhere. I think Sinclair actually owns it, a broadcast group. I went from there to Channel 2, KUTV, which is still a great operator. Spent a year there, made enough noise that I got picked up by KSL TV. They doubled my salary, brought me over. It was the best station in Salt Lake City, dominated ratings. And in those days, the only way you could reach people were with really newspaper, or you had, this will shock you, but Yellow Pages was the ultimate prize for an advertiser. You had to be in the Yellow Pages, then the newspaper, and then we did TV and radio. We controlled the ratings for prime time, for late news product, and it was an awesome opportunity, had a great time, made a lot of money, made great friends in the marketplace and a network. The highlight of my career there was in 1999, we were given the opportunity to be a Ring family member for the Salt Lake City Games, which was unfathomable that Salt Lake City was going to have the Winter Games here. We spent 3 years building that and creating it, worked inside with a guy at that time named Mitt Romney, who was the organizing committee lead. We had this great opportunity, we were projected to maybe sell several $1 million worth of advertising, and our team pumped it up over $10 million worth of advertising over a 2-week period on a gross revenue model of about $40 million. So we blew everything away. It was unbelievable. The experience of the Olympics was something I'll never forget, and it was the highlight of that analog business, KSL 5. I gotta give you some background here. Because I'm gonna segue to the entrepreneur side of it. Does anybody who knows who owns KSL Television? KSL Television is owned by a company called Bonneville International, which is owned by another group called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they have licensed broadcast organizations all over the country. Radio mainly, one TV station. That's important because in this legacy environment that I was in, we had certain expectations, no feedback from that owner. We just didn't run Budweiser ads or take money from Johnny Walker or something like that. There were just things we didn't do, and it was easy, and they didn't bug us. We didn't bug them if we stuck to their principles, let's say. It was an awesome setup. We made a lot of money. About that Olympic time, we came across an idea that this will shock many of you. The internet was born. It was starting to become something that people used. People were actually going there and looking at cars, or they might look at something to shop with. Radio, media companies, TV were looking at it and going, well, what do we do with that? We build a website. We hung banners that said, tonight, our news at 10, tonight, ER, Seinfeld, whatever we wanted to put up there, but it was stupid. It wasn't doing anything. Everybody was doing the same thing. But we were having so much fun with it, and a couple of us have been given the rights to go do it. We didn't have a budget. We didn't have really a responsibility. We had our full-time job, but if you want to do that, go ahead. So we took this on because we were so excited about the technology. You can't understand how groundbreaking the thought was that you could go to some other medium outside of radio and TV and newspaper and find solutions in real time. You guys take it for granted, but it was big. Here's where it got interesting. We went to San Francisco to a conference, an internet conference, to find out what people were doing. We heard these speakers. They were from San Francisco, and they had this awesome idea. They would take your junk and let you put it on their site, and you could sell it for money, free. So if you had an old dresser that you wanted to get rid of, you put it on Craigslist, your number, someone could email you, they gave you the money, you got rid of the dresser. And it was this incredible idea. It blew us away. No one was doing this, and Craigslist was tiny. We came back to Salt Lake City and went to our owner, our actual corporate guys, and says, hey, we've got this idea. We're going to do classifieds, and we're going to put them on KSL.com. People can buy stuff and sell stuff. We'll run ads in between those messages, just like TV or radio. Run some content, run an ad, get paid, run more content. That was the first group that laughed at us because they thought it was so stupid, because over here in this channel, if you do your history and you study it, newspapers made billions of dollars every year selling classified ads to sell your home, to sell your car. You didn't go to LinkedIn to look for a job. You went to a newspaper, to the classified section, and looked at the help wanted. And they were all charged to be in the newspaper. That's what ran the newspaper. The advertising was good, but the classifieds won the day. And that's what let them go out and write journalistic articles that changed the world, allegedly. We take it to our first group of leaders at KSL, and they laugh at us. They go, that is so stupid. Everybody uses newspaper. Why would they go to you? Because it's the future. It's the future. We're gonna get this figured out. As entrepreneurs, we were inside this legacy business, and we were figuring our way out of where we wanted to go. The truth was, we really wanted to do it outside, but we didn't have enough scale or money to take it outside, and we needed the voice that KSL was. So as an entrepreneur, our first need was a scaled platform that would help us reach our goals. We're going to grind it out, but we didn't have the money to go out here and start something or compete with that voice. It wasn't even imaginable. So it happened that we owned a newspaper company called the Deseret News. They worked in a joint operating agreement with the Tribune, the Salt Lake Tribune. They were the two voices. The Tribune was like this, and the Deseret News was like this. The Tribune was a really good newspaper. The joint operating agreement meant that they sold their advertising together, they printed the papers together, they delivered them together. Anything where there was an expense they could share, they did it over here. If the article was about how bad they hated the Mormon church, that was on the Tribune. If it was how good the Mormon church was, that was on the Deseret News. That was kind of the road that shifted the two. But they worked in business together. In one of the articles of that agreement, it said neither paper would do anything to harm the other paper, short-term or long-term. So our leaders at this holding company called Bonneville International, they said, well, you can go talk to them about getting permission, because the only way is they have to sign off. The Tribune and the Deseret News have to say, that won't bother us. If you want to do it, knock yourself out. This is 1997. Newspapers' final year of supremacy was 2007. So their curve was still up and to the right. They were still the kings. If I went and sold TV, I was always about the third one in line for budget. When the pie got cut up, newspaper got theirs, Yellow Pages got theirs, then TV. So I'm going to this group in Salt Lake City of Deseret News editors and publishers, Salt Lake Tribune editors and publishers. And it was in a conference room as big as this room that was as plush as anything I'd ever been in. Leather and walnut and all sorts of artwork and statues. It was just this amazing room. And this will shock you, but everybody that we were presenting to was over 70 and white. And they'd only been in the newspaper business. And they were already judging us. There were 4 of us. So as entrepreneurs, we put our idea together. We've got everything stacked out. We know that minimalism is key. We've only got a minute to pitch to them. They're not going to lose their interest if we go down the actual path of numbers and revenue. Because we didn't know. We were making that up anyway. No one knew. So we go to these guys, and I make my pitch. Here's what we want to do. We want to run classified ads on KSL.com. We have like 50,000 people a month that come to it, and we'll run these classifieds over here, sell stuff, post homes, jobs. We'll give stuff away if that's what they want to do. And then we'll run ads next to it, banner ads, 3x5 banner ads, and people will pay us a couple of pennies for each one of those. That'll help sustain the model. These guys literally laughed at us. They were making fun of us. They called us names. They thought we were so stupid. And you know how we'd make our money? We charge for those. You're crazy. But we'd done enough homework. We knew that while they were sitting in this big conference room with their ties and three-piece suits and having lunch every day, we'd studied it out. And there was a gentleman by the name, and this is something you'll want to write down, Dr. Clayton Christensen. He wrote a book called The Innovator's Dilemma. It's the most important book an entrepreneur can read. Because here's what he asked. Dr. Christensen, who happened to be from Rose Park, Utah, went on and got his PhD after an Oxford degree. His premise was this: why do good businesses fail? What happens? Now, none of you guys will remember this either, but at one time in America, the retailer in the world was Sears. Well, at this time, when he's doing his research at Harvard, it's in the early 90s, Sears is getting their ass kicked. No one likes them, no one's using them, no one's going to their stores, no one buys their catalog. It's just tanking. And he's saying, what happened? The guy that's running it, the women running it, they didn't get stupid. They weren't, it's not like they got a stupid pill. And he started seeing other businesses where this would happen. So as an entrepreneur, one of your key issues is you've got to know the market that you want to get into and what its forecast is. What's its trajectory? Going into retailing that time was pretty scary because some of the big guys were getting disrupted. There was a guy in Bentonville, Arkansas that had started Walmart that was just starting to blow Sears, JCPenney, all these companies away because of his new model. So we'd read this book. We know that the disruption's real. And the very interesting part of this, there was a new freshly minted MBA named Clark Gilbert who worked specifically on his graduate degree, his doctorate, around the premise that newspapers were going to fail because the internet was going to disrupt them and people would no longer read newspapers. Who's ever read a newspaper in here? That's pretty good. I grew up where we'd get a newspaper delivered. My early part of my career was I'd get the Tribune, the Deseret News, the Wall Street Journal, and the USA Today delivered to my desk every day, and I devoured them every morning. That's how we got our media. Same thing you do now, only it was got your hands dirty and it was ink everywhere. We knew that this disruption was coming, so we told these guys in the boardroom, if you're going to laugh at us, does that mean you'll sign the document and let us go do it? And they're like, absolutely. They all signed it. There'll never be a day your classifieds will make any difference in our world. Go do what you do. 44 years ago, a guy named Ted Turner started a company called CNN. And he told them at that time, the world, and he told newspaper guys, we're going to be better than that. People are going to get our news. There's going to be technology that will follow that'll make it easier to get. And one day, newspapers will be obsolete. Those newspaper men at that time printed a retraction that said, hey, Ted Turner, whenever you die, we'll be here to do your obituary because we're going nowhere. Ted Turner's 83. The Atlantic Journal announced today that they're ceasing their paper edition and everything they'll do is online. That's disruption, and it's happening everywhere you look. And the internet might be it. In Utah County for years, there was something called Geneva Steel that produced steel. It got disrupted by mini mills in America, overseas. The whole thing's gone now. It used to support Utah County, completely disrupted. So as an entrepreneur, what you want to look for is something that fills a space and you can get to early and you can forecast where it's going or where it might have been in relationship to competitors. So we good? So inside this legacy business, we spent hours thinking of names. What should we call it? What should we call it? Just hours. And we came up with this brilliant idea. We'll call it KSL.com. It started out, my first year that we billed it, we billed $25,000. That was it. Little banner ads. And that was begging people because most advertisers were going, we don't even know what to give you to advertise. We don't know what. You put it on a reel? Do we cut it out of, do we put it on paper? How do we get it to you? So we had to be with other entrepreneurs and early adopters at KSL.com. We took that idea inside a legacy business. So in the business, all our peers would laugh at us when we'd get on the elevator and go, how's that going with the .com thing? That's awesome. Because they're billing about $50 million a year as a radio and TV station. And we're over here, futzing around with trying to keep an old car running or something. They laugh at us. We kept grinding. And then we read in the book, The Innovator's Dilemma. We got this freshly minted Harvard PhD hired by our owners. They can do stuff like that. They can go out and find really talented men and women that are willing to sacrifice their careers to come work for them. They took him and put him in our midst, and we started a company called Deseret Digital Media, and we took all of our assets outside of KSL. We still sat in the same desk, we were still in the same building, parked in the same spot, but we were over here in another business. That's the disruption. And in entrepreneurship, that's a dual transformation. The legacy business keeps selling radio and TV, printing a paper. The legacy stays their track. The disruptor comes over here and is the entrepreneurial business that's aimed at disrupting that old business. It only works if you're willing to disrupt yourself. Kodak, they wouldn't disrupt themselves. They said, we take the best pictures, we got the best film. Everyone else said, no one's going to use film, we're going to take pictures with digital cameras. Kodak, all but gone. And you can go down the list of people that wouldn't disrupt themselves. Okay. So we get to this, huge success. It's now a $55 million business. It outshines the TV and radio businesses. That was my first go at entrepreneurship inside a business. It was a huge success, learning curve. I had handcuffs on me that kind of kept me around because it meant too much to leave financially, et cetera. But I always wanted to do my own thing. Left KSL.com after I'd fulfilled all my needs and relationships. I came to a point that I needed to move on. I'm going to skip some of this stuff because we're so short on time. That's the best stuff too. Do another swag thing, come up with something that I told you about on LinkedIn, or at the end you can text me. A friend comes to me who is a car dealer that I'd worked with for 30 years. He says, hey, I got an idea. You did it. You disrupted the whole business space. I want to do that with motorcycles. He'd owned a motorcycle dealership. If you're from Salt Lake City on 90th South, we owned a store, a Ducati, Triumph, and BMW store. We sold that business. We sold his car dealership, took his money, took the money I could get, and we put it together and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to become disruptors in the motorcycle space. It's happened in the car business. In the old 20 years ago, Larry Miller went around and bought up all the local dealers and became Larry Miller, and the Garfs did it. They disrupted the corner Chevy store and the mom and pop store. Now they've been disrupted, if you follow the news. The Millers just sold out several $1 billion to a giant disruptor named Ashbury that bought them out. Never happened in the motorcycle business. So here's our model. Again, we sell BMWs only, along with Ducatis and Triumphs. That's all we go after. We don't go after the Japanese side. The big dog is Harley Davidson. But they're being disrupted by your generation, and the guys my age are getting too old. They don't want to dress up and play motorcycle anymore. Gen X isn't buying the bikes. Millennials or you guys aren't buying the bikes. So Harley Davidson's in trouble. People want the new technology, electronic bikes. It's changing. So what we do is we go to mom and pop that have been running a BMW store in Nashville, Tennessee, for 30 years, and all they want to do is get out. They're tired. We buy it at 1 to 2 times multiples on their gross revenue. And then we come in as entrepreneurs and we say, okay, they don't have a CRM. They don't have an operating system for the dealership. They don't know what digital media is. They don't know what social media is. They don't have a finance department. We take our skill sets that we learned at the 90th South store in Salt Lake City and all the car business and all my marketing and experience, and we set it on top of those dealerships, and we're into it a year now, and our dealerships at a year old are 10 times gross revenue from when we bought them. And it's not because we're the smartest guys, it's because we have systems and we're in a space that was able to be disrupted, and we took over businesses that have underachieved. Not that mom and pop were bad, they just didn't know. One store I took over and I was telling her I was going to take the Facebook page. She goes, wait, I got to print everything out. I don't want to lose my Facebook account. I'm like, no, it's going to be there. You don't have to print everything. It's just over there. That's how far behind they were on their logic. So we take these businesses, we're from Oregon to Florida, and the way we financed it, and this is probably a good way to wrap up, is you need money to buy these dealerships, right? You got to have money to grow. So what we did, some of you have heard of this, it's kind of big during COVID. We purchased a SPAC, meaning we went to the stock market, the SEC, and there's businesses that fail. They're bankrupt. And they're kind of over here, like down in Tucson where you see all those jets and they're just sitting there because no one's using them. Well, this business is just sitting there because it failed. But it's SEC approved, it's fully audited, it's got all the structure of a corporation. So we went in and bought it at pennies on the dollar. The stockholders that were left had lost everything anyway, so they don't have a voice. We devalued the stock even more, put it into a where the stock, when we first buy it, it's about $1. We get it all approved. We just got everything done with the SEC. We've got our trading symbol. We've got everything in place. In the next 6, 7 months, we release it to the public and start trading shares. But we finished a Series A round where we made about $7 million selling shares in this corporation. And then in our B round, which is a $20 million round, we're about halfway through there, where we're having brokers, dealers in that space come and they buy shares in our idea, in our disruption, our quote unquote secret sauce, and what we have that's going to make those businesses better. Okay? That's entrepreneurship. But I got to share with you a couple of things. How much time do I have? 5? This is kind of a downer, but you gotta know this, especially at your age, okay? Death is undefeated. It's gonna happen. And the sooner you realize that as young men and women, the better off your life's gonna be. It's gonna happen. I'm on the trail way up here where you guys are going, whew, man, that guy's a goner. Any day now for him. I still have time and energy and hopes and dreams. Your dreams should be conscious of the fact this kind of stuff's going to happen. I don't have time to waste. I need to get in. I need to get it done. I need to get my degree. I need to get to the next degree. One of the biggest tips I can give you as an individual and as a person, as an entrepreneur, is the only thing you can focus on is that. If you can't control it, like I don't know, Biden, Trump, that whole thing, I get so tired because I can't control it enough, right? So I think about it, but it's not worrying me. I know what matters to me, and when that Venn diagram matches up, that's what I worry about. And as an entrepreneur, it makes it so much easier. We need more money from this broker-dealer in Wisconsin. Okay, well, I got to play inside those rules. There's only so much I can do. I send the email, I send the material, I'm done. I'm not going to worry about that anymore. But inside that, I can worry about a better efficiency in the dealership, better mechanics, better hours spent by those mechanics, a better social media platform, et cetera, et cetera. I can worry about that and make a difference. That works in your personal life. If some of you guys are athletes, that's the difference in great athletes. Don't quit reading. One of the worst things I did in college was I quit reading anything but my assignments. There's amazing literature that you have to digest in your life. Don't stop reading. I know it takes a lot to read all the work you have for a class, but if you're on break, you better have a book to read. There's hundreds and thousands of books that you've got to get to. Amazing books. I'll give you one right now. There's a book out right now, bestseller, called The Lincoln Highway. One of the best books I've ever read. Don't stop reading. Another one I believe is, if you stop going to the movies and experimenting and understanding culture, movies solve problems. Movies are where you'll go and find big decisions around culture, drama. Some of them are just for action and excitement and stuff blows up. But don't stop taking a minute to go to the movie and find out something and how it affects you and how it affects your life. It's real. I promise you. In closing, if there's one thing I do different in my career, it isn't about school. I had a great experience here. Could have gone to other schools, but I chose Snow College, fell in love with it. I have a home in this county because I love this county. I love this school. I wouldn't change those things. What I would do different, and you guys are so good, it's so in the sweet spot. We were taught to go get a job and go grind it out for 40 years. Go find a business that will put up with you for 40 years. You guys are in the environment where you can do almost anything you want, whether it's from here, your dorm room, from your parents' house, your place. Just remember that it's available to you in ways that no generation in the history of the world's ever seen. You're so lucky to be where you are, to take advantage of being an entrepreneur. Thanks for your time and your attention.